Hi, guys. Thanks for indulging me for a few minutes today. I am Florian Krüger from United. We are a communication service provider. A communication platform as a service is, I think, the more modern word. And we are filling the infrastructure gap between the US and China as a European business with a main seat in London and dependencies in Lithuania, Germany, and Spain. We are the European alternative to the Zooms and Google Meets and WhatsApps and Slacks of this world. My background, very briefly, is in IT management, in innovation, digital transformation. I have, as such, had a first degree in insurance economics and a second one in business IT management with a focus on data from MIT. And we also set up the International Society of Chief Data Officers at the MIT, which I've chaired in Europe for a while. I've been going back in that whole space now since 2017 and beyond, when I've already delivered the first central bank digital currency workshop talking about the importance of autarky, of alternative means of information and value exchange at the United Arab Emirates at their central banks. And speaking quite regularly, such as, for example, at the Token 2049 in Dubai this year. So I've I'm not really a big fan of talking about myself, but I've been around for a while and I've seen a few things, and I still wouldn't consider myself the mega expert or what others like to call themselves futurists and what have you. I'm just very clear on what it is that we're lacking and where we need to get better. Now, if we're thinking about everything nowadays is data heavy, as I'm writing here, tap, blink, and beep creates data. Whatever we do, wherever we move around, it's all generating information. That is particularly valid this day and age. It's not just the online bit. We all know that Siri and Alexa and all these guys, they're listening in and they're having an opinion. And our smart fridge is probably more informed about our eating habits than our spouse, let's face it. So we are creating these information trails, these digital footprints all the time. Now, I think it is important that we understand how this is increasingly important because with the rise of AI, we're feeding the beast, we're feeding systems, and we really have no idea where that information goes. Well, some idea. If you look at the businesses that are earning their money with data, then you see that amongst the top 20 listed businesses in the US, you have a few that are present and that are earning money with data, and you have very few in the UK. You maybe have one in Germany, not really. SAP maybe, but not really. Switzerland, none. France, not have one. So maybe, right? But then if you expand this into communication, even before you go all the way to Starlink and others that haven't even made it up on the top 20 listed companies business side yet, because Starlink is listed, as we all know, right? So if you look at the big businesses and you combine them, the ones that earn money with data and earn money with communication, which is a form of data, then you can see that we have a pretty one-sided, not even balance, a massive imbalance. And that is something that I think we need to address. So if we're looking at this as the new iron ore of the raw material of the digital age, then let's understand that it's not just the iron ore that we're having here, but it's what is being done with the refined material, right? The insights that we're creating out of that data, the understanding about certain shopping habits, and the understanding about patterns. It may not just be, consumer patterns. It may also be corporate patterns where a company, for example, is thinking about developing a new product, a new drug, or a new machinery component. That can often nowadays be predicted by the insights, the information that has been harnessed about a business or an individual. So we need to understand how important it is that we have a trusted, privacy first ecosystem, which helps us to turn this data into strategic strength. If I look at the stack, then it's important to understand that we do have hyperscalers, we do have others that sit on the various levels of the digital stack that are creating dependencies that aren't always beneficial for Europe. If I look at the stack and look at the stuff where we have a clear dominance of outside Europe, then that stuff is in red. You can tell that a lot of that is outside of our control these days. We are connected, which is a good thing in Europe, but we're not really independent. And because we're depending on foreign layers, we are vulnerable. We are vulnerable as businesses, as individuals, and we have no say in the whole thing. So we're not autonomous. We're absolutely depending on whatever is being given to us and however we are being told to use certain things. We can't change the terms and conditions of Google. We can't change where the information goes that is being collected by ChatGPT. We just running with the flow and we hope for the best, which is one way how we can do this. So our cathedrals, the beautiful European designs, the creations that we generate, they are built on very weak foundations. And that kind of architectural dependence really, really means that we need to get our act together and do something differently. It's super important. With so many imports, we have no more control. That trade imbalance is massive. Just think about it. Think about the tools you're using day in, day out, and you'll very quickly come to the realization that there are very few tools that are actually European. Congrats for you if you're using Spotify. Then you have one European product, and that is probably pretty much the only one that you're using in this context. Rather sad thing. Sad from a strategic perspective, sad because we're not talking to our partners, our friends across the pond or elsewhere at eye level. And of course, it leaves us with dire straits in terms of innovation and creating actually our own competence centers, if you like. Though what we want to accomplish is not isolation. What we want to accomplish is balance through sovereignty. If we are sovereign as Europe, as a nation, as the UK, as Germany, if we are sovereign and we can provide an alternative to our citizens or to our businesses, or maybe even to our governments. No, not quite sure where the German government is actually spending all these monies these days in IT infrastructure, right? If we can provide alternatives, then we can become, well, we can become the drivers again of our own making, right? And right now we're not in control. Everything is needs to be more secure. Everything needs to be open, and we need to create those partnerships on that basis of a different understanding on how data should be managed. We know how we should be doing it. And it's not about, again, it's not about us against them, it's about partnerships. So we need to collaborate, we need to have federated innovation and bring it together in homogeneous ways that we're presenting a unified Europe. Um, Henceforth avoiding isolationism, which is super important, and creating these partnerships also with the likes of Asian countries or American countries, where we can then have a say at this as a seat and a seat at the table, right? Which is super important. We know how things should be done. They should be more open. They should be decentralized. They should have privacy at their heart, and they should have good governance frameworks that underpin them. Good governance frameworks that are managed together with proper regulation. I'm not talking over regulation, I'm talking the kind of regulation that protects us from markets that otherwise might run away with our information. In my opinion, super important. We have 94% of the households already connected, so we don't have a long way to go. And we have a lot of investments already in our infrastructure. So not everything is lost, but 70 plus percent of our infrastructure, of our cloud services are powered by non European providers. Very, very, very few percent are actually powered by European providers, respectively, the countries where the information should be not just harvested, but actually saved and protected. So I think right now the opportunity is massive for us as Europeans to create a programmable, secure, and sovereign communication tool. And not just a tool, a multitude of tools. I see some signs at the horizon that we're having some good attempts. I see some business coming out of Switzerland and elsewhere, so we're not the only ones that are concerned with that. But we need many more, and we need more and faster decisions by the decision makers in the governments, in the large corporations, in the SMEs, quicker decisions and a better understanding of the magnitude of the problem. If, God forbid, Donald would get in a bad mood tomorrow and say no more Google for Austria, right? What is Austria going to do? Exactly nothing. It will have no more Google, right? So we need to be aware of that, and we need to think about how we can prevent that from happening. Infrastructure in that space, we're talking trillions of dollars. We're talking whether it's 5 or 6, it doesn't matter. It's going to be massive. It's also about communication platforms as a service. It's not just anymore about providing the landlines. I mean, who's used the landline? I mean, when the last time? I can't remember. I don't have a landline since years. We have mobiles, we have WhatsApp, we're using all sorts of other tools, but we're not using landlines anymore, right? Now, when I'm saying we're using WhatsApp, yeah, I'm also still using WhatsApp, which I'm now gradually replacing with my own United solutions for chats and communications. But we're so dependent on these big service providers that it is going to be a little bit of an effort, but it is a super important effort to make. If we want to win and don't become a victim of Schumpeter's creative destruction theories, which I do believe in, then we need to change, and we need to change at speed. We do have 400 million people, which is fantastic, right? We have a huge continent, but the fragmentation costs, they grow. We have to bring Europe together. We have to lead the way, whether it's under UK leadership, whether it's under German leadership, under Swiss leadership. I don't mind, but somebody has to actually say which direction we're going to go. And we, as a company and as individuals, then have to really start working with those businesses that help us gain our independence again. In my ideal, perfect little Florian world, we would have a communication infrastructure and a digital infrastructure that is harnessing the best of the European values, such as trust, such as ethics, being private focused and sustainable in its operations, being inclusive with what we want to do and interoperable, not creating a black box, but actually creating something that everybody can link in, and creating that kind of trust that will then allow us to export our solution to other countries, to other regions, whether it is emerging countries such as Nigeria, or whether it is countries such as Saudi Arabia, or uh, other countries and places in the Middle East. Many could benefit from a European solution that provides those attributes. The market opportunity is massive. The digital sovereignty value chain is insane. I will not bore you with the numbers. You can read them for yourselves. And as every number, it's always up for discussion, but there's no arguing that owning our digital sovereignty and managing our own information is a massive opportunity and a huge market potential. If we don't do anything, well, then we're not in the driver's seat anymore. Then we're going to be tenants in our own house. And I mean tenants forever. Because if we don't do something now, if we don't act decisively now, then we will rent the infrastructure, we will rent the apps, and we will continue to give out data away. Now, I'm 56. I could probably live with it. But I got 2 kids. I got a 21-year-old boy and a 16-year-old daughter. I don't want them to get into a space, into a place, into a world where they will not have the choice anymore, the freedom of choice, and where they don't have their privacy protected. And frankly, where they can't build a business that is somewhat shielded from foreign powers and allows them to have the right level of autarky to actually build it out as a viable business in its own right. We, as United, are now almost 4 years old. We have created the first secure, decentralized, and open source, yet fully regulatory compliant communication platform. And I think it's important to understand what that means. First of all, it's secure because it's quantum secure, and I'll happily explain how we've set up VPNs in the background that are running on microtoken exchanges that are allowing access to microtoken libraries that make it absolutely quantum secure. We're decentralized, meaning I am not the owner. I don't feel like the owner. I'm the curator, I'm the guardian, I'm the steward of the system, hence decentralized. And we're open source, which is super important because that means that any business can have our suite and put it on their own server. I don't need to own it, they can have it. I'm, of course, going to help with the installation, and we're going to set it up, and we're going to help manage and maintain it, and we're going to further develop it together with others and businesses that run our own or their own solution. But they can have it on their own server. Then they're not depending on a single supplier. And we're, of course, fully data protection compliant, whether it's GDPR, whether it's operational readiness, whether it's, well, anything that has anything to do with payment rails, etc. We are fully compliant. That's super important to know. Now, why is it important? Because it's not just about the access to information, it's not just about social media and communication through alternative means. It's not just about decentralization of power, the introduction of blockchain, and a few things like that, which then constituted Web3. It's really about everything that's coming now. It's about artificial intelligence, where the information goes. It's about privacy first. It's about proper decentralized systems for IoT devices, for smart homes, smart cities, etc., that are running on an infrastructure that is safe and secure. That is what I would consider all components of Web 4. Now, we not only do we have to think about how we can use Web 4 to the best of our advantages right now, we have to think about what's coming next. We have to think about governance standards, proper positive regulation, and partnership models that, in my opinion, will constitute Web 5, based on, of course, a lot of AI, but AI is not the answer to everything. AI has many answers, but AI is just a tool, and it will stay a tool. Mark my words. A good tool, nonetheless. Now, when I say we're doing communication, we're not just doing the WhatsApp kind of chat and video calls like Zoom. We also have WordPress style templates that are 3D templates that then create something that looks like this. So people will be able to communicate in immersive spaces because, let's face it, Gen Z doesn't want to work in a 2D space anymore. They don't want to see a website, they want to see a space like this. If you are an architect, if you're a costume designer, if you have a cool idea about a gadget, you want to exhibit it in a space like this, and you want to bring your friends there, you want to bring your customers there, you want to have training sessions there. And of course, you also want to train and be educated in immersive spaces because they're infinitely better. They're not just on and off like a Zoom call, where you then don't have access to the material anymore. They're constantly open. They're like the real thing, just virtual. So the ability to scale, to transform through proper education at scale and do it online, recreating social fabrics because of those spaces, is certainly a very good use case that I'm passionate about. Now, what do we need? What is my call to action? We need partners. We need people that believe in us, that are happy to contribute. We are currently completely self-funded and bootstrapped. We've done some good revenues the first years, so all good on that front. But of course, we need more clients, we need more visionaries that go onto that journey together with us, and people that put their use cases into our tool set and start using us for real. So I'm looking forward to being contacted by you. You can reach me through all the usual channels. You can scan that QR code and then come to our various spaces, such as explore.united.world, united with a Y as always. I repeat, explore.united.world. And I'm looking forward to seeing you online in a safe space. Have a beautiful day, everybody, and thank you very much for listening.